Lots of stories. Some of them I had to add in this morning. So first off, who is this man? Paul Ryan. Who is that guy?
House of Representatives.
He is the what?
He's the speaker.
Yes, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. And in a bombshell yesterday, he announced what?
He's not going to be running anymore.
He will not seek re-election in November. So, like 5 months from now, he is retiring from Congress, and this is extremely unusual because he is fairly young for Congress. He's like mid-40s, and he's the most powerful person in all of Congress. You don't just let that kind of power go. So, he has said that he wants to spend more time at home with his family. Why is he doing this?
Because his father died when he was young. That's what they said underneath.
And maybe that's totally possible. Maybe that really is the reason he is leaving. I don't think so. I am calling it right now. You have heard it in this class first. I think he's running for president. I think that he is going to take a year off. He's going to kind of plan and prep, and then he is going to run against Donald Trump in the Republican primary next year. I am calling. I think that's what's going to happen. He is very popular among kind of traditional Republicans that have not been happy with what Trump has done. I think he's issuing a challenge to Trump next year. So if that happens, and everyone's like, oh, so the president, you're like, no, Mr. Johnson, call it way back. Now we know, okay? Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. I kind of think it is. Let's talk about our big stories today. The first one is this. The President of the United States, when he travels by car, travels in basically a bulletproof automobile, but always with a huge caravan of other cars as well. This is known as the
Motorcade.
presidential motorcade. And the presidential motorcade will shut down traffic. The president never stops for red lights. They just drive right on through. And this story is actually from 6 months ago with a pretty recent update. Well, as the president was driving his motorcade kind of through one city, he drove past a bicyclist. And so as the motorcade went past the bicyclist, the cyclist looked over, saw that it was the president's motorcade, and gave him the finger. Now, this became kind of a viral photo back when it happened about 6 months ago, and we haven't heard a whole lot since then. But it does show that we have some new cycling signs when you were, bicycling in America. But more importantly, when you, I guess the reason this became a big story is because she then got fired from her job for giving the president the middle finger. That, of course, is not illegal. She wasn't threatening the president's life in any way. Can your job fire you for doing this?
Was it a government job? Because he's technically the law.
Very good question, Blake. So, can the company fire her for doing this? She is saying no, they cannot, and she has actually launched a lawsuit against her company for illegal hiring and firing practices. Now, what really matters, as Blake has just said, is her company itself. The company is called Akima. They are a private company. Can they fire her?
Yes. Yes.
Sure they can. You can be fired from any private company for basically any reason at all. But, there's a but, the problem is that Akima is also a government contractor. They get a lot of their business from the government itself. Can the government fire you for saying something like that about the president? No, they cannot, but why not?
Freedom of speech.
Yeah, the First Amendment says the government cannot attack you for free speech. Private companies, yes. Government, no. So that's kind of the big question is how important is the government contract here? Yes.
So publicly traded companies, you can't get fired for that then, because they're public?
No, not like a public company just means that you're kind of owned by lots of
Oh,
people. You have to actually be hired by the government. So like I personally couldn't be fired for saying that because this is a government job I have, but most jobs are not.
But wouldn't it matter if she had a government contract? Like if she was hired by the private company, but she didn't have a government contract at all?
Right. So what her lawsuit is saying is that basically that her company, if they don't fire her, might be targeted by the president for doing this, and that's why they shouldn't have been allowed to fire her. We'll find out if that actually is true or not as the lawsuit goes forward. But I thought it's a pretty interesting story. So basically, the reason behind her getting fired is not just, oh, we didn't like that. It's something called a social media policy, which most companies have, including the one I work for. So essentially, it means that I can't go on Facebook and post pictures of me binge drinking at bars or something on the weekend. I can get fired from my job for that because that social media is out there and everyone's looking at it. And she had the same thing. They said it violated the policy. That's why she got fired. But the First Amendment is a pretty big deal, and so maybe she has a lawsuit here. I guess we'll see. Okay. First story. Second story is about this man named Scott Pruitt, who is one of the top heads of our government. He runs the EPA, which is known as the
Environmental Protection Agency.
Very good. So the Environmental Protection Agency. And it's pretty self-explanatory what they do. They're the part of our government in charge of protecting the environment, basically making sure that large companies, small companies too, don't pollute too much. That's the main job of that. Now, Scott Pruitt was a pretty interesting choice when Trump hired him last year, because Scott Pruitt's main job for the last 10 years has been suing the EPA. He's actually been against the EPA, trying to get lower pollution standards for large companies. That's primarily what he's done over the last decade. And if you go to his LinkedIn profile, you guys know what LinkedIn is?
Yeah.
It's basically like Facebook, but for like work, so you can kind of network and get new jobs and stuff. You go to his Facebook profile, his LinkedIn profile today, it actually says that his job is a leading advocate against the EPA. So he is very much kind of against the agency he's in charge of. This was intentional, by the way. I mean, Donald Trump wanted to kind of, scale back government regulation, and this is one of the ways that he's done so. But Pruitt's in the news for different stuff this week. He's had unusual choices for spending taxpayer money. He spent $40,000 of our money to build a soundproof booth inside of his own home. And then he also hired 24/7 security protection for himself. He has bodyguards and security detail around him all the time, every single day, including when he flew to Disneyland last year and also to the Rose Bowl. And it gets fairly expensive to fly all those people with you. So how much does 24/7 security cost you if you're the head of the EPA? How much have we spent on his bodyguards? $800,000 over the last year. And a lot of people are concerned that maybe he's not managing the government's money in the best way possible. Now, add on to this that he's been staying at a condo in Washington, D.C., which was given to him essentially to rent for $50 a night by someone from a large energy company. Now, is that okay? Can you receive gifts from someone in the energy company if you're the head of the EPA? Is that a bribe? Is that a gift? Is that all right? That's kind of the big question. But apparently, they got tired of him living there and he refused to move out, so the landlords had to change the locks on the door to stop him from coming in, which is just weird, right? But the strangest part of the story is that he also broke a door at this condo, which had to be repaired for $2,000. Again, that's taxpayer money that did this. And the reason for this was that they had to call an ambulance to the scene because someone looked in, saw him unconscious at a table, and they were unable to wake him from outside. They pounded on the door. They called his phone. They yelled through the door, nothing would happen, and his bodyguards finally knocked down the door, ran inside, and found that he was just a really deep sleeper and had been taking a nap the whole time. So again, it's just a lot of taxpayer money. Is this okay? Should he still have his job? Can the President of the United States fire Scott Pruitt? Sure can. He can fire almost anyone who works in our government. But he said instead that he might do something different. He might take Scott Pruitt and promote him to Attorney General of the United States. So if that happens, of course, I'm sure we'll talk about that if that's the case next week. But all of this is built to the one story I've been so excited to share with you all day long, which is, of course, about Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump gave a press conference a few days ago in Air Force One. And a bunch of reporters came up, they asked him a bunch of questions, and they also asked him about a young woman named Stormy Daniels, and specifically about her NDA. Did you pay her $130,000 to sign this silence agreement? And Donald Trump was, of course, not going to answer that question. Now remember, he said that it wasn't paid by him, that his personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, paid the money himself to this woman. Donald Trump was never involved at all. But this is problematic, because if you, on behalf of a client, pay someone money and never tell your client about it, you can get in big trouble for that. That is not okay. You can be disbarred from ever being a lawyer again. So either Michael Cohen is lying about this to cover Donald Trump, or he could possibly lose his job for doing it.
Wait, what was the reason why they raided his house?
Hold on, we're not there yet, Blake. So what happened as a result of all of this is that the reporters on the plane asked, what happened? Can you explain to us what happened with Michael Cohen? And Donald Trump said, you know what, you'll have to ask him yourself. And guess who took him up on the offer? The FBI, who raided his house and office 2 days ago and brought a ton of evidence out in cardboard boxes. This is a very big deal. This is Donald Trump's personal lawyer essentially having a search warrant delivered to his home, and all that information in there can be stuff that he and Donald Trump have talked about over the 20 years they have worked together. You can imagine that Donald Trump is not thrilled about this information, and actually said it was an attack on America when the FBI raided the home, and also said that the FBI broke into his office to take his stuff. You need to understand, the FBI does not break into places. They are not thieves. They have a search warrant. They are collecting evidence, two very different things. And while Donald Trump is very upset by this, the guy who signed the search warrant is one of the people Trump hired to lead the FBI. So, where all this ends, I have no idea, but of course realize that all the stuff in those boxes will include, because it was listed on the search warrant, stuff about Stormy Daniels and that NDA, which we may know soon more, we may soon know more about any day now. Now, because of this, Donald Trump has not been real thrilled of the whole situation. He sent out this tweet at 4 a.m. this morning, in which he just said in all capital letters, a total witch hunt with 3 exclamation marks. And here we are, okay? So, like, and again, I'm not saying that Donald Trump is guilty. I honestly don't think that he's probably done anything wrong himself. But in general, innocent people do not just scream witch hunt on Twitter, so I'm not sure like this is the best way for him to handle the situation. I want to end on one other tweet that he sent at 4 a.m. this morning, which was after this one, he sent this one too. He said attorney-client privilege is dead, again with exclamation marks. What does that mean, by the way? What is attorney-client privilege?
It's like your relationship that you have, like Cohen is, Trump is Cohen's client. So it's like, they
What
don't
does that
have, they don't have a relationship anymore, like, fired Cohen, right?
Not exactly.
Doesn't it mean like it's privacy between the two?
Yes, basically stuff said between lawyer and client is privileged. You can't get that if you are the government. But here's the thing, and it's really important to understand this. Not everything you say between you and your lawyer is considered privileged information. If you say things that are criminal or lead to a crime being committed, the FBI can still look at that information. So if I go to my lawyer, Lauren, I say, hey, Lauren, tomorrow I'm going to murder some people. That is not covered by attorney-client privilege. She can respond to the police, and if she gets subpoenaed, she has to tell me or tell them what this conversation was. So again, if there's any criminal information in what they took, the FBI is allowed to use that. Wow, that all just happened yesterday. So we're going to see what happens, in the next couple of weeks if it develops further because of this. But for now,